Operation Sunrun was a demanding shakedown for McDonnell RF-101 Voodoos, their pilots, airmen, and behind-the-scene personnel. It was a record-breaking mission, exacting the utmost in painstaking planning and cooperation. While Sunrun was all of this and more, the mission was nevertheless in line with the preparedness philosophy of today's Air Force, realistic and tough. What was Operation Sunrun? Test the readiness of a McDonnell RF-101 Voodoo to fly nonstop from Los Angeles to New York and back to Los Angeles, a distance of 4,900 miles at top speed, with all photo equipment operating. At the same time, bust a few speed records. 6 airplanes in all, 4 to New York, 2 to make the round trip back to Los Angeles, and 2 to act as spares. Responsibility for Operation Sunrun was assigned to the 363rd Tactical Reconnaissance Wing of the Tactical Air Command from Shaw Air Force Base. In November 1957, pilots were well along in practice with ARDC and SAC tankers over Southern California. Officers selected to fly Operation Sunrun were carefully chosen with emphasis on experience and ability. Lieutenant Colonel W.H. Nelson was the commanding officer. Here are the Sunrun pilots. Captain Ray W. Schreckengoss, Jr. of Sebring, Ohio. Major Stanley R. Sebring of Beverly Hills, California. Captain Robert M. Sweet of Baronet, Wisconsin. Captain Donald D. Hawkins of Alhambra, California. Captain Robert E. Burkhart of Alliance, Ohio. Captain Robert J. Kilpatrick of Bristol, Connecticut. Lieutenant Gus B. Clapp of Midland, Texas. On November 27, 1957, the stage was set for Operation Sunrun. The planes were ready, and the pilots poised for the real thing. After an early morning briefing, pilots and airmen made last-minute inspections of their aircraft. Sunrun was on. Time to taxi out. Remove safety pins and disconnect external starting leads. Then, pull the wheel chock. The airmen's jobs were through for the time being, except to sweat out each second until the mission was completed. During the briefing session, pilots had drawn lots for their assignment. Accordingly, Captains Schreckengoss, Sweet, Kilpatrick, and Lieutenant Clapp were to go to New York, with Captains Schreckengoss and Sweet returning to Los Angeles. Captains Kilpatrick and Clapp were to land at New York, and Captains Hawkins and Burkhart were to man the spare aircraft. The afterburners were kicked in, and Operation Sunrun was underway. For Kilpatrick and Clapp, it meant about 2,450 miles of flying, while Schreckengoss and Sweet had to cover 4,900 miles. The number 2 Voodoo becomes airborne, and the others follow at predetermined intervals. The first refueling rendezvous point with KC-135 tankers was near Albuquerque, New Mexico. This was the pattern. Fly at top speed, meet the tankers at designated spots, gas up, and blast off again. Meanwhile, navigate, get instructions from GCI, make radio transmissions, check instruments, and fly the airplane. The second Voodoo slides into position beneath the tanker. And so Operation Sun Run progressed as rehearsed, the Voodoos taking on fuel according to schedule. In a short time, word got back to headquarters that the Voodoos had made their first refueling rendezvous successfully, and 4 were off to New York. The 2 spares were on their way back to the starting point. About 3 hours later, Brigadier General Stephen B. Mack, commander of the 363rd Reconnaissance Wing, announced that all 4 Voodoos had broken the west to east record, arriving at New York within minutes of each other. Lieutenant Clatt, averaging 781 miles an hour, made the best time, arriving in New York in 3 hours and 5 minutes to chop about 17 minutes off the old record. Captain Ray Schreckengost was first to get back to Ontario, California, making the round trip in 7 hours and 7 minutes. On the Los Angeles to New York to Los Angeles dash, Captain Schreckengost had averaged over 671 miles an hour. General Mack was first to congratulate Captain Schreckengost. Newsmen and well-wishers quickly swarmed about the airplane. Reporters, TV, and radio announcers crowd Captain Schreckengost as he explains that Captain Sweet is coming in right on his heels, making still better time. This information spread quickly, and newsmen prepared to welcome the latest breaker of the round-trip record, a record which lived only a few minutes for Captain Schreckengost. They had little time to wait. Captain Sweet soon roared across the finish line. He had covered the 4,900 miles in 6 hours and 46 minutes, averaging over 721 miles per hour. It was the first non-stop round-trip Los Angeles to New York to Los Angeles flight made at supersonic speed. Captain Sweet makes a smooth landing, completing his record-breaking flight. Here is Captain Bob Sweet, new holder of the round-trip record. General Mack later awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross to Captain Sweet and Lieutenant Clatt, and the Air Medal to Captains Schreckengost and Kilpatrick. In all, 7 official world-class and national records were established by RF-101s during Operation Sun Run. 3 of these marks were shattered in a matter of minutes, each by a Voodoo hot on the tail of another as they crossed the finish line in New York. This remarkable achievement, where 4 out of 4 aircraft completed their difficult assignments, is a tribute to the skill and organization of the Air Force, and to the reliability and performance of the Voodoo, Operation Sun Run was a real success. Hot on the heels of Operation Sun Run and equally successful was Operation Firewall. The mission? Break both the national and world speed records. The McDonnell F-101A Voodoo, the most powerful and longest-range fighter bomber in operational service, was given the assignment. Powered by two Pratt Whitney J-57 engines, the Voodoo can operate under all weather conditions, and its unique in-flight refueling capabilities enable it to carry atomic weapons at extreme ranges. The speed run was staged at Edwards Air Force Base in California on December 12, 1957, over a measured distance of 10.1 miles, in accordance with international rules. National Aeronautic Association officials placed sealed speed and altitude measuring instruments in the Voodoo and observer planes before the flight. Timing devices were installed on each end of the speed course. These are special cameras which photograph a contesting airplane as it passes directly overhead. Major Adrian E. Drew, commander of the 481st Fighter Bomber Squadron, 27th Fighter Bomber Wing of the Tactical Air Command, was selected to pilot the Voodoo in the attempt to crack the world and national speed records. At this time, the world's record was 1,132 miles an hour, set by L.P. Twiss of England in an experimental Fairey Delta fighter. The United States record of 1,015 miles an hour was set in 1956 by Commander R.W. Windsor of the Navy in an F-8U-1 Crusader. Major Drew was well qualified to make the speed dash. As a former Strategic Air Command F-101 project officer, he had logged many hours in test flying the Voodoo and was therefore entirely familiar with its capabilities. Shortly after 8:30 a.m. on December 12, 1957, Major Drew was climbing his Voodoo to the speed run altitude of 39,000 feet. In accordance with the rules, National Aeronautic Association officials were riding as observers in T-33s to witness the flight. To correct for wind effects, the rules required a run in each direction over the measured course. Here, as the Voodoo approaches the course, distances from the first marker are relayed by radio.
20 miles 25, coming up on 10 miles from West Outer Station. 10 miles West Outer Station.
262729, turn your cameras on.
Camera on 27. 5 miles West Outer Station. 5 miles. 4 miles West Outer Station. 3 miles West Outer Station. 2 miles. 1 mile West Outer Station. Stand by. Mark.
Mark over West Station.
6 miles. 25. 5 miles 25. 4 miles. 2 miles. 1 mile 25. Stand by. Mark.
Mark over Station 25.
Then Operation Firewall was over. Had he broken the record? Major Drew believed he had, but also realized that his speeds of 1,212 miles an hour on the initial pass and 1,203 miles per hour on the return pass would have to be verified by technical data before becoming official. Later, on orders from Major General Chester E. McCarty, 12th Air Force Commanding Officer, Major Drew had flown his Voodoo to Los Angeles to meet the press. He knew then his record was official. General McCarty, acting for the Tactical Air Command, decorated Major Drew with the Distinguished Flying Cross in the presence of members of the press, TV, radio, and newsreel men.